Hey there, welcome to day 21 of our time together going through Hey You. If you do not have this book, it's okay. You can still hang out. Just if you would like to get the book to follow along with the rest of our time going together through it, the link is in the description below. We are on day 21, and the title of it is Keep Some Secrets. The note says, Hey you, can you just be mine? Can you just belong to me and let me bring everything to you that I have for you? I am working everything together for your good because I know that you love me. Can you just be mine and let me bring all that I have for you to you? And there's a way to speak up and not be rude. And this is a prayer portion of the note. It says, God, you know me better than anyone else. You are home for me. I will trust you. I will be yours. Let the auxiliary things go and chase after you, not those things. You are my first priority. The other things will come as I pursue you. I will be moving forward and surprised that it's time for those things to come. You first. I will be with you first. And in the season that I wrote this note, I was very aware of how much I was pursuing things and pursuing those things to the detriment of my relationship with God. So I was pursuing them above pursuing him. And I just had this thought that if I got everything that God had for me, if I uh, obtained it, if I received it, but I had mishandled my relationship with him in the process, I would have missed I would have missed the whole thing. And that wasn't the life that I wanted to live. Like I was very aware that the story that I wanted at the end of my life, I didn't want it to be that I was a woman who got all these things but didn't have a good relationship with the Lord. And you know what people know, I don't think that's something that they would say about me because, I'm very involved in church. I've been a good Christian, for most of my life. But it's the parts of things that only God sees. Like, could God say, and could God vouch for my relationship with Him? Like, is it something that I'm doing only in service, or can God look at my heart and say, this one belongs to me, she belongs to me? And so I just, at this time, I remember becoming aware that I was choosing to go after things and not choosing to go after Him. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that to be the story of my life. Um, and I think it's in this. Yeah. I tell the story about how I was at an event playing the piano, and I just felt a lot of pressure when I was about to play, just pressure of expectations and pressure of wanting it to be right and to sound right and having it be a certain way. And it felt like the Lord asked me, like, don't you want to play just for me? And it was in a worship context. And so it was just a stark reminder that, yes, this is a platform. And yes, I'm on the piano and playing, but it's ultimately always supposed to be for Him. And if the things that I do, the things that I pursue, don't ultimately lead back to Him, then I'm going in the wrong direction. And it's not what I wanted. And so, with piano specifically for me in this one, um, it was understanding that I had given something over to performance or to pleasing people and to pleasing expectations that used to be just between me and God. Like, even now, piano is still um, the instrument that I feel like I have the most language with. That I'm not the best. I don't have. There's still a lot of things I have to learn, but I can communicate more easily on the piano than I can with a lot of other things, whether it's musically or just in general. I feel like I can communicate on the piano. And I had given that communication over to performing and using it. I mean, worship context, I don't want to make it sound like it's always performing, but because I had mounted so much and carried so much of people's expectations for what it was supposed to sound like, what it's supposed to be, I had lost like the purity of the communication of it, like that dialogue between myself and God. Uh, that piano was, I had lost it because I had surrendered it to expectations and to fulfilling it in a certain way. So, this title of Keep Some Secrets, it's like it was taking this thing back into the way that where it used to be just God and mine. And now it wasn't that I needed to not play or not be on the worship team or not do those things. I just needed it to be repositioned in my heart where it was that I understand that I'm doing this in front of people, but this is still about my communion with God, still about my dialogue with God. And there are just some spaces that I feel like it's so easy for us to use it in a form where it's being displayed or put on display in front of people, and we miss or disconnect from the purity of what it used to be in our relationship with God. So, whether that is because it got onto a platform or um, just because we surrendered it to other people's expectations about what it was supposed to look like or what it should look like or sound like, all of that, as soon as it gets out in front of people, it has the potential to be marred and take a different shape than it used to have uh, when it was just something you and God had. And so, uh, just in encouragement and a challenge to whatever that is for you. In this note, it was piano for me, but whatever your expression is, whatever it is that you do, and it has become something that people give you attention for. Um, but it used to be just you and God's, or you just something that you communicated with Him. And it doesn't mean that you don't still use it to communicate with Him. It's just not always just His anymore. You're doing it in front of people, and it can be hard to navigate, um, allowing it to be something that you have that still you reserve a piece of it that people don't get to touch, like people don't get to alter or talk about or lay their expectations on. Like it's your form of communication with God. And um, it doesn't mean that you don't like listen to what the environment you're bringing it into, what standards or, things that they have set in motion. Just don't leave your communication at the whim of people. Like don't I think surrender is just the word that keeps coming up. Don't surrender it to um, people's expectations at the expense of your relationship with God or doing it in relationship with God. And don't substitute doing it in front of people and then stop doing it for the Lord. Stop doing it in the secret times. It's like when King David was playing in the palace, but he was also playing in the fields with, when it was just the Lord and the sheep out there to listen. So just keep some of those things reserved for the Lord. And even if it is something that's on a platform now, something that you have that's you're doing for public display, just don't forget the purity of it when it was something that you just shared with the Lord. The scripture for, ooh, it's a long one. Let's start it. Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 6 says, watch out. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose the reward from your Father in heaven. When you give to someone in need, don't do as the hypocrites do, blowing trumpets in the synagogues and streets to call attention to their acts of charity. I tell you the truth, they have received all the reward they will ever get. But when you give to someone in need, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Give your gifts in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you. When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly on street corners and in the synagogues, where everyone can see them. I tell you the truth, that is all the reward they will ever get. But when you pray, go away by yourself, shut the door behind you, and pray to your Father in private. Then your Father who sees everything will reward you. We have that promise. He sees. It's just up to us to make sure we keep some things with Him private. That's it for today. We're getting so close, you guys. I'll see you back here tomorrow for day 22.